Yeah, we are at the Alexandria Transit Company, William B. Hurd Transit Facility. This is the garage, maintenance shop, and administrative headquarters of the Alexandria Transit Company. We house about a fleet of roughly 100 buses that consist of diesel, electric, hybrid buses, clean diesel buses, as well as battery electric buses. I am excited for our transition to battery electric buses and thus scaling up our deployment of zero emissions fleet. It's going to be a big challenge for us to be able to figure out and reinvent how do we accommodate, how do we support battery electric buses with a limited amount of charging capacity here at this facility. Our journey is going to include upgrades to the facility, improving the infrastructure, and being able to support the necessary amount of chargers to be able to scale up our electric bus fleet transition. One day, we're aiming to purchase no more conventional buses after 2027, and we're aiming to have a fully electric fleet by the year 2035. We're inside the Alexandria Transit Company, William B. Hurd Transit Facility, which is our headquarters, our garage, our maintenance shops, and our administrative offices. Here we house and maintain and take care of roughly 100 fixed route transit buses. We service the entire city of Alexandria and the surrounding community. We run about 10 routes through the community. We serve on a normal year 4 million annual passengers, and we operate over 2 million miles every year. This facility was built for us in 2009. We have been in this facility since. It's a fairly young facility. It's a LEED certified facility. We have everything from LED lights to motion sense lights, water systems. We have an advanced bus wash that reclaims a large percentage of water and minimizes freshwater usage. And we have green initiatives all throughout the facility, including the fleet itself, to maintain our LEED certification. Our fleet is roughly about 100 total buses now. More than one half our fleet are clean diesel hybrid electric buses. We also have a fleet of clean diesel buses that feature the latest and greatest in clean emissions technology, including diesel particulate filters and diesel exhaust treatment systems. In addition, this year we are receiving and welcoming to our fleet our first 6 fully battery electric buses, which have zero tailpipe emissions. And we have 8 more arriving by this time next year. Here specifically, these are our maintenance shop bays. We have 10 total bays in here that we use to do preventative maintenance and maintenance work on all of our entire fleet. In here we have upgrades such as LED lighting, smart HVAC system that are that varies depending on when we have higher and lower amounts of air circulation needs. We have motion sense lights, energy saving LED lights. The lights here throughout the entire facility are motion sensed, so that when there is not an active bus or person moving around in a particular part of the building, that portion, that bank of lights is turned off for energy savings. We'll store most of our buses inside this garage here in a climate controlled setting. To circulate and exhaust the entire air from the interior of the garage, and they're set up in a way where they follow a schedule so that when there's more activity in the garage, they run more, and when there's less activity in the garage, they run less. Again, in an effort to minimize our energy consumption. Yeah, absolutely. In our shops here, we have a centralized dispensing system for all of our fluids, motor oil, antifreeze, and whatnot. We also have an exhaust circulation system that takes all of the exhaust air from any diesel motors, has to be run indoors, and keeps the air clean and pure inside the shop. Having indoor facilities is a necessity and a great benefit for operational efficiency. That's really much more so apparent in the winters. Yeah. In the winters, buses traditionally have to warm up their coolant to provide heat to the cabins. Therefore, in outdoor facilities, there's a large amount of fuel burnt and wasted and emissions emitted just to get buses up to temperature. We find that with an indoor facility, all that is no longer necessary. Even more so for electric vehicles. One of the biggest consumers of energy on an electric vehicle is heat. And that is because on an electric vehicle, heat is no longer free. Heat on a diesel bus is wasted energy, but it's a byproduct of an internal combustion motor. Whereas on a battery electric bus, it doesn't come to you in the form of as a byproduct. Instead, you have to consume the same electricity that you need to count on to get the bus down the road to create heat. And so the closer, the more ideal that we can keep these buses stored in its ambient temperature, the more efficient that we can run these buses without having to spend so much energy on bringing the buses up to temperature, generating heat, and just getting the buses warmed up. And so my guess is that for all of our fleet, 100 and so buses, each bus we save roughly at least 10 minutes worth of idling every single morning, especially on cold days. Every single morning, the idling that is no longer necessary due to the fact that they're kept in ideal and controlled ambient temperatures as opposed to the exposed environment. As a matter of fact, on the battery electric buses, one of the ways that battery electric bus manufacturers are mitigating the issue of ambient temperature and creating cabin heat is to install, ironically, a small diesel motor to generate heat. Because we're in an indoor, climate-controlled ambient environment, we did not have to install such a diesel motor to generate heat on these buses because the buses are kept at a preferable ambient temperature. So we can really call our battery electric buses true battery zero-emission buses.
We know that transit is important, it's much more efficient, and in this case, a very clean way to move people. So we thank you for that, for being the first city in this region to have 100% electric buses. You see two of them behind us. I asked if I could drive one, and I've already been told that that was not an option today. But Alexandria and Dash are also the first to commit to 100% zero-emission buses, as Josh said, by 2035. And this is certainly commendable. And as you all may know, Virginia has committed to being carbon negative or neutral by the year 2045. So we're all on a path to have a much cleaner environment.
And I'm so proud of the hard work that was undertaken by the leadership of Dash under Josh Baker, our general manager you heard from a little earlier, our assistant general manager Raymond Mui. They worked with stakeholders in the city, our partners regionally and the state to achieve take advantage of the funding available under the Volkswagen Environmental Mitigation Trust to bring our first set of electric buses to Alexandria.
And we'll unveil the buses. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
These buses were just unveiled today, as we saw an hour or two ago. The one you see here is a 2020 model New Flyer Excelsior battery electric bus, zero emissions. This particular bus has 466 kilowatt hours of battery capacity.
Wow.
Which is top end as far as battery electric buses.
406. So you've got a megawatt of electric buses between just the two of these.
Yep.
But almost 3 megawatts between all 6?
I believe so, yes. So these chargers you see here, these are the Proterra chargers. We've actually had success charging the New Flyer buses off of the Proterra chargers, which is one of the main objectives of deploying the electric bus program, as we did by splitting the manufacturer. 2 different models of chargers for 2 different vendors of buses.
Yeah.
We currently have on order 3 buses from a manufacturer called New Flyer and 3 buses from a manufacturer called Proterra. Currently, we also have 3 chargers from each manufacturer. The point of us, the intent of us diversifying our electric bus portfolio is so that we can actually see, demonstrate, and validate each of the technologies and see which ones perform well. But also, we want to be able to see, demonstrate, and validate the standardization of charger technologies that's been established over the recent years between the different manufacturers, so we can take a brand A bus and charge it using a brand B charger, and vice versa. This is one of the dispensers from the Proterra chargers. This is a 125 kilowatt hour charger.
Is there you have to put the thumb button, or is it locked? So this is the SAE Combo J1772, the CCS standard.
Yep.
And so you're using that for all 6 of these buses?
That's correct. This is the standard that's been standardized throughout the transit bus industry.
And then this equipment, Looks like there's a couple different pieces of equipment. So this one has a V2G, vehicle to grid capability, at least on the dispenser. But then over here, this one says it's also V2G capable, but it's 125 kilowatts.
Correct.
So it would take about 4 hours to charge your 400.
As we deploy these battery electric buses, especially our first set, we've intentionally maxed out the capabilities of both the buses and the chargers and their configurations. We've got the top of the line chargers, 125 kilowatts chargers, but we've also maximized the number of dispensers each. So all of our chargers, 6 chargers, each have 2 dispensers. It's our intent to be able to support as many battery electric vehicles as possible with fewer numbers of chargers. And that's important to us because one of the biggest challenges of deploying battery electric buses is the amount of electrical feed that comes to this facility. These 6 chargers that we have installed today, this year, will consume the available electrical capacity
Of the facility.
of this facility. And so it's my intent for us to maximize these charging configurations so we can charge and support 12, 14 more buses with the 6 chargers as opposed to 1 bus per charger with older configurations and older technologies. So this is a split charger. So right here you see this is 1 charger, 1 cabinet box, and this is a box so that you can plug in 2 buses at one time. And it's designed to charge, at least for now, sequentially. When the first bus tops off, it'll start charging the second bus. As we start deploying in scale, you can implement charge management systems to optimize the level of charging and to charge at a rate where we can capture the best rates of electricity costs. The reason why you see the chargers and the dispensers here on 2-foot pedestals is that this garage floods frequently. So we've built these chargers with 2-foot pedestals to ensure that we get a constant supply and a constant reliability of these chargers, even in flooding events.
And then even the charger conduit is run up.
Yep. Up and over into our electrical. If you want, you could probably ask Karen. She just drove back the last electric bus. Ask her how she felt it. It was probably her first time driving it.
My name is Karen Police. I drive a bus. Okay, I thought the bus was great. It was smooth, it was nice, there was no noise. But one of my favorite features is where you put your foot on the brake for 2 seconds and then the brake stays until you hit it's not the fuel pedal, but the go pedal again. And then it came off and that made it a lot easier to be able to operate and get things done too. So I thought it was a fun ride, and thank you for giving me the opportunity.
On this New Flyer battery electric bus, we've opted for the options of having depot charger ports on both sides, left side and right hand side of the bus, which is not a standard feature. We've opted for roof charge rails so that these buses can be compatible with overhead opportunity charging on route one day should that be necessary. So there's really two main methods of charging a battery electric bus. It could be here at the garage using a depot charger that tend to be slower, 125, 150 kilowatts. One of the challenges of deploying battery electric buses is the question of can these buses last all day on the road? That's one of the demands of fixed routes for battery electric buses to be able to last 18, 20, 24 hours on the road as their predecessors were able to do. One of the mechanisms to enable that is to provide on-route opportunity charging, where transit agencies will build overhead chargers at a bus terminal or at a bus station somewhere on route, so buses can charge while they're in service. And that's a mechanism to allow buses one battery electric bus to be able to serve 18, 20, 24 hours or even more on the street at any given time. Those are a more capital intense project. They're minimum 300 kilowatts. Many of them are 450 kilowatt and up. The intent of those is to be able to provide a fast charge while buses turning around or laying over or taking a break at a terminal point, so they can charge and be able to top off or replenish this charge in just a few minutes. The way these buses charge, we have charge ports here on each side of the bus.
bus is on and it's just so totally silent.
Yes, this bus is on. It is running. There is no internal combustion motor. There are really no major moving parts. So the bus is running right now, and it's just pure silent. We have an electric blue flag. We have an electric blue flare. That is a Proterra bus right there. The reason why the Proterra bus is here today is because these chargers are going through the commissioning process.
Yeah.
And they brought a Proterra bus here so they can use a Proterra bus to commission these chargers. Yeah, one of the most time-consuming things of deploying electric buses is the commissioning process. So over the past few weeks and over the next upcoming weeks, the electric buses go through a cycle of charging up, running them down, charging them up, running them down, and it's a repeated cycle which serves two purposes. One is to really ensure that the battery systems on the buses are charging and are as balanced as they're intended. The second, it ensures that all of the chargers in whichever charging circumstance or configuration charges properly, whether it's one by one or sequential, or taking a different bus or taking a bus at a different level. We need to make sure that the buses and the chargers can function correctly under any possible circumstance. It helps us get familiarized with how the charging characteristics work, which will help us optimize our charging practices. And there's also an opportunity for us to get familiar with the buses, how they perform, what their consumption rate is, and we can really plan and be strategic be strategic about how we deploy the buses by really being familiar with how long we think they're going to last out there. Worst case scenario, best case scenario, so that we can actually pilot them and run them effectively. What's going to be the biggest challenge and the most exciting thing for us is learning how to accommodate and support a battery electric fleet, and that goes beyond just the bus itself. It's going to extend to how do we maintain 99, a whole fleet of these things? How do we transform our maintenance team? What special skill sets do we have to bring in here? How do we have to reimagine how buses are orchestrated in the garage? As they come in, they get serviced, they get parts. That process has been perfected and fine-tuned for conventional buses over the past handful of decades, but it's going to have to be reimagined and reinvented as we now have to accommodate and incorporate battery electric buses in our fleet.
And you're excited about that journey?
Oh, absolutely. This is one of our diesel electric hybrid vehicles. We have over 50 of these in our fleet. They feature a small diesel motor that supports a hybrid system. The diesel motor is the same size of a diesel motor that's in a consumer pickup. This is one of our older legacy diesel buses here. The way that these battery electric buses are funded are through the Volkswagen Mitigation Trust Funds. And one of the stipulations of receiving those funds is to take one of the older legacy diesel buses and dismantling it, retiring it out of the fleet, and removing it from circulation so it cannot serve a second life, really taking it off the road so it can no longer pollute the air. So it is buses like this that are paving the way for our battery electric buses. As these buses go into service, the buses that they're replacing, we're sending into a scrapyard for scrappage, but we also have to document their dismantling and the destruction, and we have to document it, photographing and whatnot to ensure that they are fully destroyed and taken off the road for good. It's an opportunity to upgrade our fleet to really purge out the last remainders of the older diesel technologies from our fleet, and overall it helps us progress our fleet and turns it greener overall. But in addition, it helps us brings our fleet up to standard by converting all of our fleet to low floor entry buses that meet industry standard with safety flooring, low floor entry and exit. Today's standards, ADA compliance and accommodations, and some of the latest technologies that are featured in today's buses that did not exist 15 or 20 years ago. This one here is one of our clean diesel low floor transit buses. It features all of the latest and greatest and modern clean diesel technologies that include diesel exhaust after treatments, diesel particulate filters, and also electrification of most of the major components of the bus, which overall reduces and minimizes fuel consumption and emissions. Part of that includes full-on LED lighting throughout the bus, lightweight flooring, fully electric cooling systems, fully electric door systems. Many of these things that used to be powered by air or motor drive in the past. service department. Each and every single day, every single bus gets fully serviced here, meaning that they come here at the end of the day, they get washed, all the fluids are checked, they get fueled, fare boxes, the fare box is dumped, fare box data is downloaded, ECM data is downloaded, and the bus gets fully serviced and cleaned inside and out in order to be prepared for next day service. In addition, what we're doing for COVID, what we're doing in response to the COVID pandemic, our buses are also being fully disinfected twice per day, as well as fully fogged once per week, in addition to our standard service procedure. Again, our whole fleet that is run on any given day comes to one of these two service lanes and gets the full service process. After they get serviced here, they run through our bus wash. They get fully clean on the exterior. We have an eco-friendly bus wash here that the bus wash services upwards of 80 to 90 buses per day. And it's an environmentally friendly bus wash that reclaims a large percentage of the water that it consumes, 70 to 80%, so that we do minimize our water consumption. As bus washing is typically a water intensive and